Appreciate you clicking on this video, my movie peeps. We finally got enough news to talk about, so let's get into it. Some of the stuff we're going to be discussing here today, guys, is we got our first look to the upcoming Borderlands movie with a teaser trailer promising the full trailer tomorrow. Believe it or not, we're getting reports of a Project X sequel. Is it necessary? Along with updates concerning our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that is just terrifying us what the future of Spider-Man 4 is going to be. Really, that along with so much more, so you guys know the drill. Leave your opinions down below with everything we discuss here today. And if you don't do that, at least hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. That would mean the world to me. But okay, jumping into it, let's start off with our first look to the upcoming Borderlands movie. Now, this is a movie a lot of video game fans have been looking forward to for a while, although there is some trouble behind the scenes. But I don't think you would know much about that from just looking at the first look of it, because everybody seems to fit their video game counterpart. You got Kevin Hart in here, Jamie Lee Curtis. And you know, I've mentioned before, I've never played Borderlands, but this is one of those video game movies a lot of people always ask me about, like, Chris, where's an update? What's going on? And so for anybody else curious about it, the plot that they have right now for the movie is, the plot here says Cate Blanchett will play Lilith, a mysterious fugitive who makes a homecoming to her planet of Pandora in order to search for the missing daughter of Atlas. Lilith teams up with a band of outcasts that include former soldier Roland, played by Kevin Hart, preteen demolitionist Tiny Tina, Tina's bodyguard Craig, scientist Tannis, and robot Claptrap, voiced by Jack Black. We got a little teaser trailer of the actual trailer that is promised to be released tomorrow, and I gotta say, even though I'm not a fan of it, I do gotta admit, the world looks colorful, it looks a little inviting, it seems like they've immersed themselves in this Borderlands setting. And I'm also gonna go out on a limb here and say, maybe I'm not as worried about the writer of this movie asking to have his name removed from the project and instead go with a pseudonym, which is always a death sentence that the movie is bad when someone doesn't want credit for their work. That's been the ongoing rumor with this Borderlands movie. A lot of behind the scene issues and drama where the story and movie just isn't as good as they hoped it would be. And while video game movies in the past have been cursed with this dilemma, lately that doesn't seem to matter. Whether you have the Sonic movie franchise, the last Mario movie, or Five Nights at Freddy's, those are video game movies that still get bad reviews, but fans of those properties end up loving what was presented, opening a whole new era of what I think video game movies are, where they're no longer catering to general audiences, regular people trying to get them interested, but instead are just gonna make the movie specific for video game audiences. Hence why we get some bad reviews of people that's like, it wasn't for me because I never played it, so I don't get what's going on in this world, and it just felt random. Whereas opposed to if you were familiar with Borderlands, it feels like they will do the movie justice. Now that's the optimist in me thinking this movie could still be poo-pooey for both fans and general audiences. But you gotta admit, that has been the trend we've been seeing. Now I just wonder if Borderlands is big enough and enjoyed by fans that it could still earn that box office money from just the people who are fans of the video game and not have to rely on general audiences. You know, that was fine for Sonic, Mario, and even FNAF, because those are large fan bases. And maybe it's just my bias of not really being a fan of Borderlands. I wonder, is there enough out there to make this movie successful? I guess we'll have to wait and see with the full trailer. It could change a lot of people's minds, but how are you guys feeling on the first look and behind the scenes drama with Borderlands? Next up, another movie that I'm sure is going to get some controversy going in the comments. We got reports this week that we are going to be getting a sequel to Project X. Now, if you don't know what Project X is, it's basically a found footage movie of a couple of kids that try to throw a party, and it ends up becoming not only one of the biggest parties ever, but just an out of control riot experience. It was a movie that kind of defined a generation for a while, okay? This movie came out right when I was in high school, and I'll say it, I thought it was real, okay? It was only until I rewatched it a few years later that I'm like, why is Miles Teller the actor in here? This movie's fake. This didn't actually happen. But it was a pretty iconic movie for a lot of people, and through the years you would have people wanting to recreate their own Project X party. I think everybody out there has a story in their town of, yeah, some guy did it and cops and everything came, and it's like, a neighbor just probably knocked on the door and said, can you turn the music down? That's nothing compared to your Project X movie, okay? But the report is saying the interesting part about this movie is it'll be titled Project XX, and it'll have a female-led cast. Now, already, some people are turned off by that. They're going to get mad for obvious reasons with the world we live in today. But I really don't think that's anything to immediately get upset about. Now, don't get me wrong. If that's all they're going to do new with it is just, let's just have girls in it and make it about girls, it's like, well, it should be, good story first, interesting world. Times have changed from the last Project X to this Project X. Add in social media, more technology to it. How much more crazy can this party get? Heck, I even think it's creative because the title being Project XX XX is the chromosome buildup of a girl. So there's like a clever tie in there because you add an X because it's a sequel and then you got two X's. So it makes a girl. Like, okay, you're doing something there. If your movie is fun and entertaining, I won't care if it's all boys, all girls, or all squirrels. You know what? Make Project X with squirrels. I'd love to see those nuts get crazy. But also in the bottom of my heart, I'm like, even if it was all boys or the returning cast going back for one last party, it doesn't feel necessary. Project X just feels like one of those staples in a certain time of a generation that was a fun movie, but you don't need to make another one or a sequel. How are you guys feeling about Project X looking to be getting a sequel? Bringing us some kind of scary news here and looking like we might have just found the next movie that Warner Brothers is going to write off for tax purposes. Yesterday, Stephen King took to his social media to let us know an update with his movie Salem's Lot. Now, this is a horror movie that a lot of you guys have been wondering about. We had previously gotten a Salem's Lot long ago, and now this is going to be another one, an updated version, and it was said to actually be a decent movie. And it was supposed to come out like a year or two ago, but silence, you know? Nothing about it, and people are like, what happened to this movie? And well, this is what Stephen King said. Between you and me, Twitter, I've seen the new Salem's Lot, and it's quite good. Old school horror filmmaking, slow build, big payoff. Not sure why WB is holding it back. Not like it's embarrassing or anything. Who knows? I just write the effing things. And this is just basically just started up the conversation again. Is Salem's Lot the next movie up on the chopping block to then just get a tax write-off? They've done it with Batgirl. They did it with my Coyote vs. Acme. Still hoping that movie sees the light of day. And now Salem's Lot looks to be the next one. I don't think this is just for tax purposes and for Warner Brothers to save a quick buck. I genuinely think this is just because Warner Brothers does not have enough money to release these movies. I don't know if you guys remember, but a year or two ago, maybe it was last year, whenever we had Black Adam and that Florence Pugh movie, Don't Worry Darling, articles came out that Warner Brothers only had just enough money to market Black Adam and Don't Worry Darling, and they couldn't afford to release any other movies that year. And sadly, Warner Brothers is just so tight with their money right now. They're looking at their upcoming films that they have to spend to get released out to theaters, market, and do all that kind of stuff, and they're looking like it's not going to be a great return on their investment. I would love Coyote vs. Acme to get released in theaters because I feel like it could be a big success, but I can't use the previous success of Space Jam Legacy to back that up because that didn't work out for them. You know, while a lot of horror movies nowadays do really good, even the best horror movies don't make the kind of blockbuster money studios hope for. So that's not me giving an excuse on why they should do it. That's just me telling you their mindset. And with us now going our second year with this movie having silence, and even Stephen King not knowing what Warner Brothers is doing with it, I'm thinking it's not getting released. I think there could be an article coming up in the next couple of days that lets us know Salem Lot written off for tax purposes, and another creative person's vision, whether it be the director, the writer, the actors, anybody that was involved in the making of this movie, all that hard work for nothing. It's even gotten to the point where I see movie fans online just started to treat this like a normal thing that should happen in the industry. Like, I know Madam Web sucked and we're all talking about that, but the amount of comments I got of people saying that should have been a tax write-off, that should have never seen the light of day. Not a great movie, but it still brought me some sort of joy and entertainment to share that what I consider bad film with everybody. If someone spent their time and made it, I think it should still be seen and not necessarily buried. I think that just creates a dangerous precedent in the industry, and I'd hate for art to get made that just gets vaulted, especially when we have the rise of AI behind us. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but do you think Salem's Lot is getting released, or do you think it's next on the chopping block? Next up here, we got kind of a small update on the Five Nights at Freddy's sequel. I know it's been kind of silent on this movie, and fans have been wondering, man, when am I gonna get my FNAF? Well, while Blumhouse still wants to pretend like they haven't greenlit the sequel, although it's obviously coming, a production website known as Production Weekly did say that it looks like Blumhouse is looking to want to start filming the movie July of this year. And that's really great news if they still want to meet their 2025 release date. I don't really think there's any hope that this movie will be released this year, but that's perfectly fine because I want them to take their time. I want them to do something special with it, and I feel like now they're just going to pump a little bit more money into it and try to really hone in on the success of the FNAF fans. Aside from that, I'm just curious what story direction they go. And yes, we have an idea of where they could possibly go with the second Five Nights at Freddy's video game, but we've seen the movies have already started doing their own thing, creating their own lore. And I think that is exciting, and it's why I don't think they should stick 100% to what happens in the video games. So in the next couple of months, while it still might be silent, come this summer, if they start filming like this is saying, we'll get some casting announcements and leaks here and there on the story details, and That'll be really fun. What are you guys wanting to see out of Five Nights at Freddy's 2? Moving on here, we got some continued updates in the Marvel Universe with Avengers and Spider-Man. For one, we're getting told by Daniel RPK, who's lately kind of been on a roll with these Marvel scoops getting proved right, is that we're going to hear from Marvel Studios pretty soon who is going to be directing Avengers 5. And this is going to be exciting and interesting for me, because don't forget, the last update we had with Avengers Kang Dynasty is that director Daniel Dan Creston, who directed Shang-Chi, was no longer going to be involved with making Kang Dynasty. You pair that up also with Jonathan Majors being fired from Marvel and them looking like they might go a different direction with the big bad of the MCU. Avengers 5 seems like it's a movie that needs a complete overhaul, and while we still don't know whether they'll keep that Kang Dynasty title, whether they'll retitle it something else, us finding out who the director of the movie will be could open our eyes to where they're headed and could even let us know who the director of Secret Wars will be. And that's what they're letting us know right now, that Marvel pretty soon, and they have been making a lot of announcements from the Deadpool 3 trailer, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men 97 trailer. Kevin Feige's getting his ducks in order, and you know he wants somebody on board for Avengers 5, because that movie needs to be big, man. Because aside from like Deadpool 3 and Spider-Man 4, I just don't know how like up and down excited I feel the world about the next Avengers movie. Especially since this has to be the first Avengers film after Endgame. Ooh, those are some big shoes to fill. And while I don't think they're going to go big enough to try to outdo Endgame, I think your goal should be to make a quality movie to get the fans reeled in and super excited for Secret Wars. So leave your guesses on who you think the director will be. I know there's going to be a lot of Sam Raimis out there. I would like for him to be the Secret Wars director, but we'll wait and see. And then that leads us into more Spider-Man 4 talk, which the talk about Spider-Man 4 went from super excited, really looking forward to this movie, to now I'm worried what Sony and Marvel are cooking here. So just to bring you guys up to speed, for a while we had heard that Tom Holland, Marvel, and Sony were very happy with the direction of Spider-Man 4, that they had an idea to go back grounded, to make it a street-level movie, that it would be Spider-Man, Daredevil, with the Kingpin in there as a villain, Scorpion would pop up, and it'd just finally be a low-stakes Spider-Man movie that we have kind of been wanting to see out of Tom Holland. But for some reason, that has really changed, and whether it's because Sony's movies right now are flopping and their Spider-Man spin-off universe is dying out, aside from like Venom, Sony wants to squeeze as much money as they can out of Spider-Man, leading them to the idea of wanting to do another multiverse movie for Spider-Man 4. Bring back Tobey and Andrew, go bigger than they did for No Way Home. And as exciting as that would be, because like I'm not gonna say no to Tobey and Andrew back, I just don't think that's what I want. And that's just what we've been hearing the past couple of weeks, right? Is the back and forth. You know, Marvel wants the low stakes, Sony wants the high movie. Who's going to win? And now it looks like we have an idea of how we'll know who won that battle in argument. Along with Daniel RPK letting us know that we'll find out the Avengers 5 director soon, he's also letting us know that we'll find out the director for Spider-Man 4. And knowing who the director is going to let us know if Sony or Marvel won that debate. This Spider-Man news account sums it up very well. If John Watts is announced as director, it means Sony won, and Spider-Man 4 will be a multiverse film. If someone else is announced, it means Kevin and Tom won, and Spider-Man 4 will be a street-level film. And that's how we know, my friends. That's how we'll know if we're going the Sony multiverse way, or if someone else gets announced as director. Kevin Feige got his way for a street-level Spider-Man movie, and you know, I've been saying for the longest time, although I enjoy John Watts and I cannot deny his success with the MCU movies, because every Spider-Man movie he directed with Sony got perfect scores on Rotten Tomatoes, made so much money. Like literally his track record is flawless in terms of financial and a business sense. But in terms of like a passionate Spider-Man fan at heart, I've always felt like there is something missing from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Although yes, on textbook, those are good movies, I just feel like, something there is missing. A little bit more spirit. Something I can feel in the Tobey and Andrew iterations. Although they have their fair share of bad movies, I still feel some sort of passion or visual wow. And it's kind of why I don't want John Watts back. I want someone to bring back in that visual wow with Spider-Man, even if it means maybe not having as high of a Rotten Tomatoes score. Remember also the reports are saying Sony wants to rush this movie out and release it by 2025. Marvel thinks that's a bad idea because 2025 is already stacked with so many movies, and yeah, Kevin Feige's right, but Sony needs to recuperate some money they're about to lose from Madam Web. Who knows if Kraven's going to be good, and Venom 3 will probably just end up breaking even. So I guess we'll wait and see now, Spider-Man fans. All is left to see who gets to be in the director's chair for Spider-Man 4, And that lets us know what direction we're headed in, y'all. Let me know who you want to direct Spider-Man 4, or if you think John Watts should just come back. Yeah, I understand. Man has proven himself. But that is all movie news we currently have going on right now, guys. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch me talk some movie news. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.